All right, the allowance method has really two approaches. We're going to focus here on the percentage of receivables method, right? And the focus on either one of the versions of the allowance method is on determining the necessary ending balance in the allowance account. And the allowance for doubtful accounts, sometimes called the allowance for uncollectible accounts, that's a contra asset account. It is connected to the asset accounts receivable. Those two accounts go together for us to determine net receivables. In this approach, we're going to take a percentage of the ending balance in the accounts receivable, and that's what we're going to say is the necessary ending balance in the allowance. So what we're saying is there's some percentage of receivables every year that we know are going to become worthless, and therefore that's the amount of reserve or allowance balance that we need at the end of the year. Now, an important distinction in this approach, right, in either one of the allowance methods that deal with receivables, we have to analyze the allowance account activity. We have to be aware of the other activity that's occurred during the year in order to come up with the right amount for the adjustment. So you have to analyze the allowance account, and you really need to do that in a T account, which is what we're going to look at next. So we've got the allowance for doubtful accounts, and it always has a credit balance at the beginning because it's a contra asset account. So the normal balance is a credit balance. So BB is the beginning balance. Then over the course of the year, we apply write-offs against the allowance. So WOs, write-offs, are the write-offs of worthless receivables that have occurred during the year. Now, we're going to end up with one of two balances. We're either going to end up with a debit balance in the account or a credit balance in the account. So this is one of those scenarios where you have to really understand what's going on. You can't just memorize, because I can't say you're always going to do this, because it will depend on, do you have a debit unadjusted balance or do you have a credit unadjusted balance? So beginning balance less the write-offs, one of two things is going to happen. If the write-offs were very, very large during the year, and in fact you wrote off so many receivables that it was greater than your beginning balance, you're going to end up with an unadjusted balance. That's a debit. However, if during the year you had some write-offs, but it wasn't very large, where the beginning balance was greater than the write-offs experienced during the year, then you'd have a credit balance. Let's go with one of the assumptions first and look at how the adjustment at the year end would occur. So let's say we had a small amount of write-offs during the year, so our unadjusted balance is a credit. Now, to figure out what we need to do at year end, we would take whatever our company's policy is, that uncollectible percentage, and we'd multiply it by the accounts receivable balance. And that would give us a dollar amount that's the necessary balance in the year end for the allowance for doubtful accounts. So that's that purple circle area at the very bottom. We're saying that's our target or needed or necessary ending balance in the allowance. So we are currently at an unadjusted balance, and we need some amount of adjustment to increase the balance up to the necessary balance. So that rectangle amount, that's the amount of the adjustment, and then the adjusting entry is debit bad debt expense, credit the allowance for doubtful accounts. What if instead the allowance for doubtful accounts ended up with a debit balance as the unadjusted? We'd follow the exact same procedure. We'd multiply the uncollectible percentage times the AR balance and come up with that necessary balance in the allowance, right? The ending target balance that we need. And we'd need an adjustment amount. That adjustment amount would be greater, though. We'd have to come from the negative unadjusted balance or the debit unadjusted balance to an even larger adjustment amount to come up with a net credit balance in the allowance. But the journal entry accounts would be the same: debit bad debt expense and credit allowance for doubtful accounts.